Hello, and a warm welcome to the Irish Angle, our weekly discussion show where we look back on all the things that happened in Irish racing and further afield. Johnny and Emma with me as usual. Right, we'll start off with one of the big talking points from over the weekend. Came to light on Friday, I think, that a section at least of the British trainers are looking at boycotting TV interviews if they're not paid some money. Now, the money they're talking about is 500 grand they're looking at for in total, I think, of RMG, the crowd who hold the media rights to a lot of the TV coverage. And if they're not paid that to their association, they're talking about not doing interviews. What do you make of this, Emma? Bit of a shock, I would have thought.
Yeah, I couldn't really believe the headline when I saw it first. To be honest, it's kind of it seems ludicrous. And I was reading more into it. I think the basis of their demand here is the fact that the jockeys are already getting paid for their interviews, but I think the jockeys, the way that works is it goes to cover their insurance fees. So like for the trainers to be demanding this, and it's been kind of mixed reception to it, I suppose. I saw quotes on the site this morning about Kim Bailey, who seems to be totally against it. And then Dan Skelton came out during the weekend, who's a big supporter of this. So it's this group, the PRA. I think they say that they represent around 170 trainers, but it kind of sounds as if all the trainers who are in this group kind of haven't had the full discussion about it, by the sounds of it anyway. But like it seems ludicrous, like for a sport that is probably fighting at the moment to get on terrestrial TV. Like there's plenty of opposition to racing in the UK anyway, at least. To be demanding money for interviews, like you'd imagine for any trainer, no matter how big or small they are, like to get on ITV any day of the week on a Saturday, like you were saying in your blog, like how much would it cost to advertise a business in a prime TV slot on terrestrial TV? For them to be demanding money for it just seems ludicrous. And I can't see any case for it. I could see a case if they were demanding more of the media rights money goes into prize money, because that benefits the whole industry, benefits trainers, owners, jockeys, keeps the sport going. But look, they're saying it's up to the trainers how this money gets distributed. They're talking about giving it to the Inter Jockeys Fund and all this, but that hasn't been made clear. On first reading of it, I just can't believe it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think it's a bit of a shock. Johnny, what do you make of it? Like, can you see the TV companies paying this sort of money?
No, to be honest, I wasn't aware of the jockeys getting that money, and I suppose Peter Saville will say that the Professional Racing Association, that there's like that there is a precedent there. He claims that there's essentially been universal support for this, and Peter Saville says the PRA represents 170 trainers. If 170 trainers, if they all agree with this, I'd be absolutely amazed. I mean, where is this coming from? Like it's not absolutely beholden on a trainer to give an interview after a race. Like some trainers are more media shy than others, and they'll decide not to. As you pointed out in your blog today, and I think this is a very, very important point. For me, jockeys and trainers get a seriously easy ride in interviews. Like, they're very good with their time by and large, but you're sometimes just afraid to ask them stuff because you're afraid that they won't talk to you again. And generally, I find, as you say in the blog, you get a lot of ex-jockeys who'll be interviewing them, and a lot of people within the industry, and generally journalists who the modus operandi is not to be too hard on them and not really ask difficult questions. And sometimes it will be difficult questions, but it's rare. And in general, the trainers are in Ireland, and the jockeys are very given with their time. I found with racing TV that certainly the jockeys that are in the middle or lower end, and that's the vast majority of winners, they're very thankful to get any publicity because they're fighting for eyes, and they know that winners bring publicity, and they also know that winners bring interviews, and they'll do that. And trainers are like that as well. And you'll see trainers they might have a bookmaker advertisement on their coat or on their hat and stuff like that, and they can use that in interviews as well. And by and large, they use interviews because it's the done thing, and they're happy to talk about a winner. They're happy to talk to the press. To be getting paid for it. I mean, Peter Saville then brought up this. If I find the quote here, he brought up, imagine a movie producer saying to Leonardo DiCaprio that we won't pay you, you should be grateful for the exposure we provide. Is he trying to compare Martin Brassil, Willie Mullins and Jessica Harrington to Leonardo DiCaprio? Like, sorry, racing's in a position where it's struggling more and more and more to get any sort of mainstream coverage, where race cards in the papers are basically on the way out almost. Racing journalists, we spoke of this after Ron McKnight passed, racing journalists hardly exist anymore. And in the mainstream media, people don't generally care about racing. And now you're trying to suggest that the media should be paying trainers to give interviews at the racetrack when, like, with respect to trainers, the trainers that actually go racing, because a lot of them obviously just find that there's too much racing now. The lads that go racing, they're there for hours, and I'm sure they're happy enough to kill some of the time by giving an interview or two and to promote themselves. I found it extraordinary, to be honest. Maybe there's an issue with, where some of the money goes from the racetracks in Britain. That's another issue, but I found this extraordinary, to be honest.
Yeah, a thing you pointed out there to me, Emma, just before we came on air, was the fact that a lot of these top trainers in the UK that will be involved in this are sponsored by bookmakers. Will that sponsorship go ahead if they're not doing TV interviews? Because that's a part of it, I'd imagine, for the money that these bookmakers are paying, to see these guys on screen wearing their jackets and other emblazed branding and all the rest for all these bookmakers. What do you make of that?
Yeah, you'd imagine like a lot of these bigger trainers are sponsored by bookmakers and other companies, and like product placement on mainstream TV, prime time slots. Like you'd imagine their deals will be renegotiated massively if they do start to refuse doing these interviews. But like Johnny kind of mentioned, I think there is massive like fundamental problems in the funding of the sport. Like more of this media rights money definitely should be going towards prize money, because like as we spoke about plenty before, prize money in both the UK and in Ireland is abysmal, really, in loads of different aspects. But like it would be disappointing if they did give into these demands. Like I think, if the trainers start to refuse to give interviews, however many support this demand, I think, even with the Irish trainers coming over and stuff, who obviously won't be a part of this body, you could interview smaller trainers who oftentimes will have more interesting stories, and it's nice to hear from stuff like that as well. So I'd imagine if they do start this boycott of TV interviews, it probably won't last too long, because like you said, all their sponsorship deals, you'd imagine, will be massively renegotiated if their branding isn't being showed on telly. And again, like I think the main thing here is like it's massive advertising for a trainer to be on TV. Like just say, people seeing their face on TV all the time. And yeah, I just can't believe it. And like I suppose it has to be said, it's not all the trainers. Like we mentioned, Kim Bailey there was saying he couldn't really get his head around the idea either. But yeah, it's a mad one. Like I said, like if they were renegotiating the whole package into prize money, that's where it will benefit everyone. But to be paying trainers directly for interviews, which is what it seems like, nearly what they're asking for, just seems ludicrous.
Yeah, and on just another thing, Vinny, as well. The race courses themselves, and I know this definitely, some of the race courses are going to face financial trouble over the next few years, because in Ireland, for example, the deal would be that your turnover per race course is going to directly affect the money that's come back to the race course. And like we've seen, is it a 20% give or take drop in turnover in the last, I think it's in 2 years in racing, which is staggering, like a staggering loss. Affordability checks and other factors as well. Bookmakers, for me, losing interest in racing relative to other sports, and racetracks will be under pressure. And I think trainers need to be very, very cognizant of that. Like maybe you could give out the racetracks haven't made enough effort to get people through the turnstiles, and for all that it's difficult nowadays. But racetracks will be under pressure, and to be asking people to be paying money to the trainers for interviews just seems outlandish to me.
Yeah, we had issues, of course, here only a year ago with the Racecourse Association, that some of the members of that, where there was nearly a split there too over the media rights thing. They were feeling that HRI were taking too much of a cut out of the deal they had done on behalf of the racecourses as well. So it seems to be wherever there's money, there's going to be problems, isn't there? So there's lots of money in this media rights, and everyone's looking for a little bit of it. But sure, anyway, we'll see what happens. We'll move on.
Just one more thing. Like it kind of seems like they're nearly living in a different world. Like I saw one of the quotes from Dan Skelton saying, jockeys get paid for interviews and trainers don't. Even the average person on the street will ask why that is. Like that is he, like I don't understand, is he trying to wind people up or what? Because like I can't imagine anyone like watching racing. I didn't know jockeys got paid, but look, reading into the jockeys thing more, like the money that jockeys get paid goes to cover their insurance. Like they're putting their bodies on the line. But like I don't think any average person on the street would be asking why a trainer's not getting paid to get interviewed. Like it's
like, I tell you what as well, Emma, if Dan Skelton does want to get paid, I hope he'd be subjected to the sort of questions that, say, Premier League or even League of Ireland managers are subjected to in press conference, where they might ask, like, how has this horse improved 57 pounds at Cheltenham and stuff, and ask him several times. So then, he might actually see, well, if you're going to get paid to do interviews, maybe you'll be asked some tough questions as well.
Yeah, you'll have a whole Langer Dan section when he gets paid, I suppose. Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on to last week's racing action. We had lots of it and great stuff too. Tayeste's Day Thursday was the first big highlight. Willie Mullins, Nick Rocket wins it the 10th time for Willie Mullins to win the Tayeste's Chase. Interesting story there was the owner, Andrew Stewart. His wife, Sadie, passed away 2 years ago, and she was local from Gore's Bridge. So she'd have loved to have seen the horse win. That was always been the plan, was to have a big win in Gore for the horse. So fantastic, that one. And some performance carrying 11 stone 11. Could be a hell of a horse, Emma, going forward.
Yeah, geez, it was some performance, and it was kind of reminiscent of the ride that Paul gave Carefully Selected 2 years ago to win it. He went all the way around the outside. I'd say he had paint in his boots from the outside rail. He was kind of a horse. Look, he was obviously joint favourite, but I was kind of nearly thinking maybe he had his chance in handicap. Sorry, like obviously he ran in the Irish National first time in a handicap. Maybe that was a big enough ask. He was third in the Bet365 then, and I suppose he had a nice run in Leopardstown, and Willie was kind of maybe saying that he thought Paul might have ridden Glengloody, but he obviously didn't get the choice, didn't get it wrong at all. And yeah, look, the test is always a great race. Maybe like in years gone by, you would have seen horses like Jack Adam and On His Own, who are proper maybe Gold Cup contenders going through it. But Nick Rocket, probably a horse who has maybe a bit more to give. Maybe he was a little bit disappointing as a novice going into those handicaps, but he ran well in the Bet365, I suppose. Where he goes from here will be interesting, but he's got that big one under the belt. And yeah, it was a lovely story with that local connection. And the Tayeste's Day is it's kind of nearly a local Gold Cup down around that direction. There seems to be a massive buzz around it, and they promoted fair swell and fairness scoring and building up to it and things. I saw some videos of it afterwards. They had Mickey Joe Hart playing in a tent down there afterwards. It seemed like great crack down there, and it's probably something that a lot of tracks maybe miss, like they don't really build up to their big race, but Goran kind of seemed to create a massive buzz around this GSDs, and the local community get behind it massively, which is brilliant.
Yeah, it's interesting in these times that a race meeting like that midweek can attract such a crowd at a country venue as well. Johnny, what do you make of that? Just those sort of tracks in general, the smaller tracks, they're finding it difficult to get crowds going, but yet Goran seem to have mastered it somehow.
Yeah, well, I don't know about masters, like, because you're still talking about relatively small crowds, even Tayeste's Day, and it's great to see like that Tayeste's Day has a real stature, and it was funny, not funny rather, but it was just lovely to hear Willie Mullins talking about his memories of all the cars coming through, like from different parts of the country through the into the road in Goran, and you'd see all the traffic when he was young and what it meant to the local people. And like Eddie Scally, I think Eddie does a great job at he's doing Wexford, so he does a great job at his racetracks. Like Goran will really struggle to get crowds for a lot of meetings, flat meetings and all that. It's probably not possible even to do anything to attract crowds there. But the Tayeste's endures, and you have to, as you say, Vinny, it's a race meeting in January in the middle of the week. And Goran is a rural racetrack, so like a lot of people want to have a drink at the races, and you can't drink and drive nowadays at all. So like you need for people to go racing in Goran, you have to have proper transport. You have to have people able to go there and enjoy the day, and have transport outfit. All these things have to be looked at. But it does endure as this meeting, the race that stops the county. I still think there's an element of that. The race has changed. Like again, it's like all those top races in Ireland, even the handicaps now. It's smaller and smaller numbers, effectively dominating them, and it was Paul Townend winning for Willie Mullins, Gavin Cromwell, Gordon Eddy at Gavin Cromwell, and Gordon Eddy, Willie Mullins, 6 of the top 7. And I thought Velvet Elvis gave a hell of an effort, but the Tayeste's endures, and like Eddie Scally Gordon put a lot of money into facilities there, into the weighing room and improving the facility. I think it's a marvellous racetrack. I think it's a throwback to old days, really, where it's a rural racetrack. And it's a very intimate racetrack. It's a beautiful racetrack in the summers, and even for a flat meeting. And it's great to see the crowds going there. And I do feel like if you have one job, which is kind of to really promote one day racing all year, you should get it right. And I think some other racetracks need to look at what Gordon are doing. But it was great to see the crowds there. It was an excellent effort from Nick Rocket. I think Velvet Elvis deserves a lot of credit, though. He was 13 lengths clear of second, and nobody kind of writes about the win. 13 lengths clear of third, rather, and nobody writes about the runners up.
That's true too. Yeah, the one amazing thing for Goran that always strikes me is it occurs towards the end of January when people haven't been paid for probably 6 full weeks because you get.
That's why they go to Goran.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? How they can turn up and get a crowd on a Thursday as well. Just goes to show the country we live in. People can take time off whenever they feel like it. Anyway, moving on. Loads of other stuff from last week. Constitution Hill. What about that, Emma? Last flight blunder.
Oh God, my heart was in my mouth. Like it was kind of like the race was going to be a procession the whole way, I suppose. Like, I think he was maybe 25, 30 pounds better than anything else in the race. And that's the way it worked out. Like he took a lead and they went slow enough and he took it up. And oh my God, I left out a gasp. I thought he was gone, and it would have been an awful way to get him beat as well. Like God, no one wants to see a horse like him coming down at the last fence. But thankfully he managed to stay up. And like just seeing a video from the side on, like he kind of was asked to go from nearly outside the wings and he kind of took a stumble, and just shows how kind of smart the horse was to be able to find his legs even after that, because like I'd say plenty of horses would have gone down in that situation. But look, I suppose we didn't learn a whole pile about the horse. We'll probably know an awful lot more about the champion hurdle picture after this weekend. Myself and Johnny were both down in Willie's there during the week, and he was chatting about his champion hurdle contenders. It kind of sounds as if Lassie Mountain State Man might actually take each other on now with the weekend, which would be really, really exciting. And we'll see then. Is there real contenders to go against Constitutional? Because obviously we didn't learn anything about him. I suppose Nico took it really easy on him, and he just coasted home. Didn't ask him a whole pile of questions. They were saying they might have to work him next week, but yeah, I'd say the race at the DRF now will tell us a bit more about this champion hurdle picture.
Yeah, well, we do know that the engine still there with Constitution Hill anyway. There's no doubt about that, Johnny, is there?
Well, yeah, I had an English, a long time English kind of racing fan who's involved in the game, and he's on State Man each way. I put up State Man each way on racing TV there, as I was a quiet time. I think racing was called off left, right, and centre, and they asked for an anti-post strip or two, and he was 11-1. I put him up each way just on the basis that something might happen to Constitution Hill or one of the leading fancies in the market. And your man got back to me after the race and he said, this is not the Constitution Hill of old. I know you can see it too. And I was watching it back and I said, I'm not sure I see that, but he beat Brentford Hope, who's rated 146. Spirits Bay, who's rated 125, was third. So it's hard to know what he achieved. Hard to know how much he left as well, because it was like a relative canter. Sometimes horses don't have a lot left and it looks like they've loads left. And it was funny, I was just saying to you before racing before we came on air, Vinny, like the concept of backing a horse at these odds, like, and it was the same with Anzadam, who I thought was mad short for a horse in a hurdle race that could be keen on. I thought you'd be mad to back him at the odds and eights. Never had a moment's worry. Constitution Hill, like, if you did have 12 grand to win one or whatever, and you're looking at the last, you're like, was that really worth that? With that kind of, and horses can just completely not perform as well. The second one after wind up, he's had his issues, but I have to say, like, the Nicky Henderson has gotten a lot of slagging for the almost hourly Constitution Hill updates, particularly when he wasn't running. It's marvellous to see this horse developing a little bit of a sequence now, having run twice in a short space of time, twice in a month. And I'd love to see him back to just be there and to race on. It's tragic in sporting tragedy. It is tragic when these horses just can't train on or are retired. And if they all show up in the champion hurdle, I don't expect brighter days ahead to run at Leopardstown, and I'm still not sure where she'll run at Cheltenham, but I think for the sake of racing, all these billionaire owners or whatever they are should want to run these horses against each other in the champion hurdle, and he is the horse to beat, no doubt.
Yeah, exciting times if they do all turn up in Cheltenham. Just looking at last week as well, we had some real pointers towards the Triumph hurdle as well, and they're all UK based, which is amazing. We had Lalumba the previous week, which we talked about last week on the show, really impressive. And then we had East India Dock, continues to impress, and we also had Palladium, the 1.4 million purchase with Nicky Henderson, took the wraps off it in Huntingdon last week, but was only workman-like. What do you make of that race, Emma, the Triumph in general with those British trained runners?
Yeah, it looks really exciting. And yeah, the British trainers definitely are dominating. I think Lalumba is 7-4, East India Dock 7-2. I suppose Hello Neighbour. It looks like a good race at DRF this weekend as well, the Grade 1. Willie was really talking up that Lady Vega Allen as one. He thought could go right to the top, obviously. A relation of Cuevega, I think. Is she out of his sister Cuevega or something along those lines anyway in St. Lucia? Another one he was talking up, but it's kind of hard to see past these British ones so far. Lalumba, kind of, we talked about him last week. He'd be a real wow factor about him. Palladium didn't impress me now, to be honest. His jumping was okay, but I'd say he's a lot to improve to get into that Triumph hurdle picture. But this East India Dock, God, he looks like a proper horse, and like he's coming into Cheltenham now with a proven record around the track. His brother, obviously, Burdett Road was quite a good juvenile hurdler himself, but he looks like maybe a different proposition to him. He looks really, really easy to handle, I suppose, which was probably Burdett's Road's biggest issue last year. He was quite keen and could maybe walk through a hurdle the odd time as well. But this East India Dock, he loves the hill in Cheltenham. Looked really, really straightforward. I'd imagine any brothers coming along behind those two as well would be worth a fair few quid, because I'd say like Lumba, obviously the one everyone's talking about for the Triumph, but this East India Dock would be a fair hard one to beat, I'd say.
Yeah, you were fancying Hello Neighbour for that one, Johnny, the Triumph. You'd have to be worried, wouldn't you, with some of these British horses?
Yeah, like I don't do enough anti-post betting these days, and I should do more of it. Like obviously it's harder to get on, and the old days you could get good. Like I remember going to Cheltenham one year with Lorena and Sam Crow, and I had them at like really good prices, and it was like, real. If I have a good win, like, it doesn't change my life because I tend to give it back anyway. But if it was a life changing, and the thing about anti-post betting is like you can be talking about it for months. You can be literally meeting your mates in the pub. What price you now, and what you make from the weekend? What you make of East India Dock? I bet Hello Neighbour at 33s, and I thought I was in a great position. But now you're like, will he even be in the first three? Because I really liked East India Dock's profile going into Cheltenham at the November meeting, and I just felt that performance was exceptional, because he won over he'd won over 2 miles on the flat, but the way he travelled that day was, he looked like a horse that was like a mile and 2 hours on the flat, really travelled and jumped, and he just looked such a ready-made hurdler. He has the pedigree to go hurdling and all of that. And then you have Nicky's horse, obviously Lumba, who was exceptional as well. And you wouldn't be sure with Hello Neighbour, as Emma says. Willie was really talking up the filly that was second to Hello Neighbour the last day, Lady Vega Alain. He's basically saying he reckons with the weight allowance she'll give them a lot to think about. The Triumph looks an exceptional division, and it's funny, I've said this before, it's the one race from the new Cheltenham I like the Fred Winter, because I think generally the good horses will run in the Triumph anyway. The Triumph looks spectacularly good this year. Still a lot of cards to play, but for me it's definitely one of the top 3 or 4 races I'm looking forward to at Cheltenham.
Yeah, of course, we've Lumba is also in the Supreme, got an entry for that, so you never know the way Nicky Henderson's going to play his aces there. I'd say he was a little bit disappointed with Palladium, so you wouldn't know would we even see Palladium at Cheltenham, because they were talking about a flat campaign anyway. So the fact that it didn't particularly impress might subdue their enthusiasm for going to the festival.
I think
looking back at some of the Irish.
Just with Palladium as well, like that horse is rated 100 and give or take 110, 112. Like, from my general experience, very good flat horses do not make hurdlers, and maybe I'm wrong on this. And he's kind of, I'm not sure what the German form amounts to, but he's obviously a very, very good flat horse. And if I were them, I'd probably, and he was bought for a lot of money, I'd probably wonder about, like, hurdling can definitely affect a horse, I think, in terms of his flat career. If it doesn't go right for him, it can kind of just put him off course a bit. Like, so I'd be nearly thinking, don't overdo the jumping if he's just not taken to it.
Yeah, plus the fact he's still an entire as well, which is maybe an issue too. Being a little bit careful at his jumps, perhaps. Looking back on some of the Irish stuff last week, we had some good racing the weekend as well. Anzadam, Dancing City, Cowabunga, all Willie Mullinses, all impressed. But what do you make of them, Emma? Anzadam looking like it mightn't be champion hurdle this time round anyway.
Yeah, look, he was fierce impressive, but I suppose similar enough to the Constitution Hill race. Like, it was a small field and not much you'd expect to get anywhere near him. Really impressive. Willie's kind of talking about skipping Cheltenham, and you can probably kind of see why. It's really hard for a horse like him. He obviously missed his juvenile hurdle campaign, and it was interesting. Willie was talking about him during the week. He would have been his number 1 juvenile hurdler, he was saying, last year, kind of ahead of the likes of Majbur. But he missed the season for whatever reason. I presume it was an injury or something like that. But like, coming back this year as a 5-year-old, it would be a tough ask to go into a champion hurdle. And I think they're talking about going 2.5 miles, something like the Aintree hurdle, probably be his ultimate aim, and probably be more like a live contender for the champion hurdle next year, more so than this year. Doesn't look like either he'll go there, but he looks like a fair horse. Like, it was a bit of an egg and spoon race. They kind of crawled around and he sprinted away from the likes of Beacon Edge. An 11-year-old now, you'd imagine, shouldn't be getting anywhere near a champion hurdle picture, but he's a horse who's done nothing wrong. And like the Donnellys, like, they have some team of horses, like the State Man, Anzadam, Sergino, that juvenile hurdler, Lumba, I can never say his name right, but she's like,
even that kid Spool that won, Emma, like, he hasn't been talked about at all. I think he's only entries the champion hurdle.
like their return on investment in racehorses, like obviously we don't know how much they're spending on these horses, but like they have some team of horses. Like there's plenty of owners, I'd say, spending more money than those who like struggle to even get a runner at the Cheltenham Festival, and like nearly everything they have is near enough a grade 1 horse, or if not, you know, some kind of a graded level. Like they've had some turn in the game in the last few years, and I say anyone would be envious of their team coming into the Cheltenham Festival this year.
Yeah, of course, we don't know about the ones that never made the track. That's the other side of it. We only see the ones that make the track, but the ones that do make the track look exceptional. I agree with you. They've had some run of it. Just going on from there, we talk about the Dublin Racing Festivals coming up this weekend, and the pair you were down in Willie's on Wednesday last week for a Dublin Racing Festival preview with all his top horses. So basically, what did you take out of that, Johnny? First off, anything really struck you from there?
Lady Vega Lane was and Kate Doughty were two that he mentioned a good bit. Like again, I'd have to look back at the notes now as to what's going to go to Leopardstown. I seem to recall him like really still talking up State Man as well, and the fact that Tim Husbands was there, and you know Willie was obviously on message at the same time. But you can tell how much the Leopardstown means to him, and like it's funny, like Leopardstown in the 2 days is probably a better festival than Cheltenham in 4, in the sense that it just fits in so many good races in the 2 days, especially compared to Cheltenham of 2024 anyway. And it's really taken off. And like Tim Husbands, this weird thing, it's a bit like the League of Ireland now, which I wouldn't have expected either, where you know the crowd is capped at a certain number, and more will want to get in. And the English, this English love for the Dublin Racing Festival, it must have been very well marketed. It's great to see, like it's proper old school to see 18,500 there, and like really good atmosphere. Willie's horses in general seem to be in very good form. Emma can probably illuminate you a bit as well about what horses he was really sweet on. He did speak about Lossiemouth in the sense that they felt that she'd been trained to settle so much that she couldn't go the pace at Kempton, and we'll see more from her. Her obviously not going to Cheltenham. I would hope now that she'll take on Stateman. That'd be a really interesting race. Like Willie laughed at the idea of him winning 8 races again, but he's, as you say in your blog, like he's favourite for pretty much all 8 races, and he's second favourite for a lot of them. It wouldn't amaze me if it happened. That's the one thing I it's not great for racing if one trainer is dominating like that. But you know, with Gordon Elliott probably going to sidestep the meeting with 2 of his main hopes, and the rest of the Grade 1 horse in Ireland fairly thin on the ground. That's just how it is. But I think Dublin Race Fest has been a great concept, and really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Just looking at those 8 Grade 1 races where Willie is favourite for virtually all of them at this stage, but I think there's 5 of them are odds on, and that's dependent on him running second and third strings to make them relatively backable, as in 4 to 6, 4 to 7 shots. But if he decided to only run one, say in that Irish Champion Hurdle, if he didn't run Stateman or he didn't run Lossiemouth, either one of them is going to be a crazy short price, isn't it? What do you think, Emma?
Yeah, in fairness though, Willie seems to be normally fairly game with these horses. Like as long as the owners are happy to go, I'd say he's happy to run them against each other. And look, I know it's probably going to be dominated by Willie Mullins, but it still looks like there's going to be some great matchups. Like Johnny was mentioning there, Lady Vega Allen was definitely one he was talking up. I'd say he reckoned she could be a filly to go nearly all the way. Meeting of the Waters was one he mentioned for the handicaps, but probably unlikely he'll get in. I think it'll be his first run, but he won't get in more than likely unless Willie, I don't know how many Willie has in the race. Maybe he can pull out 10 of them up the top of the weights there to try and sneak him in down the bottom. But he's rated 112, like, which would be an awful long way below his chase rating. I don't think he's ever run for Willie over hurdles. I think he's only run for Eugene, but I think he actually started his career at a roughly the same mark over fences for Willie. I remember he won one of those rated novice chases down in Cork. I think was it for horses rated under 116 over fences or something like that. But like he would have been fairly lowly rated anyway. But he's definitely one to keep an eye on. Maybe not at the Dublin Racing Festival, but somewhere over hurdles, because I'd say the Grand National will be the target, but they'll probably win a handicap hurdle along the way there somewhere. I asked him who his best chance of a winner over the weekend was, and he said Gallopin Des Champs. I know not much of a bet there at 4 to 6, but probably just shows the confidence he has in him. And I think the Gold Cup is one I'm massively looking forward to, just seeing Gallopin Des Champs again, but it's kind of hard to see anything reversing it. But the Champion Hurdle will probably be the most interesting, I suppose, with a point going forward. I'd imagine he's going to win the 2 of them. I don't think Gordon will win the filly. It would be interesting if he did, but like Johnny was saying there, he kind of seems to think they can do things a little bit different at home with Lossiemouth, which might get her a bit more forward going, I suppose, for this champion hurdle pace.
Yeah, one of the interesting ones you mentioned there, Meeting of the Waters, that was one that stuck out like a sore thumb for me in the entries. It's in the 2:25 on Saturday, a 3-mile handicap hurdle. Never run over hurdles for Willie, did for his previous trainer, Eugene O'Sullivan. But that horse is rated 37 pounds lower over hurdles. It's interesting that Willie has at least made an entry. It probably won't get in. It's down the bottom of the handicap. It only has 9 stone 3 in the handicap at the minute. And I think it's 45 out of 46 runners in the list, so it probably won't be balloted out, you'd imagine. But it'll run somewhere over hurdles, I'd say, before the end of the season at one of the festivals. So definitely one to watch out for, Meeting of the Waters, whenever he puts it over hurdles. What about this weekend, Johnny? Anything stick out for you as a bet for people?
No, I haven't actually looked at the markets much, to be honest. I'm really looking forward to the two juveniles taking each other on again. It's Meeting of the Waters. See, he's 7-2 there. Like, he's not going to be that if he runs, but I presume he's not going to get in. He's a very well prepared horse when he won at Cork and then went on to win the Paddy Power. I'm looking forward to seeing, I'm looking forward to seeing horses hopefully take each other on, even if they're from the same yard. And this is the thing, like, was it Gordon and Eddie O'Leary said this before? If Gordon didn't run all these horses in the tests, how many would actually run? Like, if Willie didn't run horses in the Dublin Racing Festival, the grade ones would be really, really slim. And Willie has probably been accused down the years of keeping his horses apart, as many trainers would do, but he doesn't really do that at the Dublin Racing Festival. They take each other on, just at the prices here. If Hello Neighbour were, I'm just looking at here, he's the best price 11-4. If Hello Neighbour were 11-4, I'd still be very happy to back him. I feel he'd come on loads from that run. He'd never run over hurdles before. At the moment, he'd be my best bet at that sort of price. I know Gavin Cromwell likes him a lot. Horse in great form. Looking forward to seeing Margeborough maybe take on Il Atlantique. That might be slightly, hopefully that will happen. And obviously as well, the likes of Qualmita in the Paddy Power Mares handicap hurdle. That race actually is interesting. I think I have a horse from that I will give a mention to. I just have to get the name for here. She won up at Down Royal the other day. So if you come back to me on that, I'll have it in a sec.
All right, good stuff. Emma, anything stick out for you?
Look, not particularly. I suppose there's plenty of short ones in the graded races. Galopin Des Champs, he's a short price. Look, we'll have to see for the handicap declarations, I suppose. There was probably one there. Look, he actually ran at the weekend now, so he's probably unlikely to run again. DiCapo, I think he's a horse who just loves Leopardstown. He obviously won there at Christmas. Look, he was beaten in a 3-mile grade 3 at the weekend behind Dancing City and Bioluminescence. So, look, that was probably a tough enough full slog. So I'm not sure he'll show up there. But like, he's a horse who he was stepping up markedly in trip there at the weekend. But like, he's a horse who beat Ashdale Bob last year over hurdles at Leopardstown. I thought he put in a massive performance as well to win at Christmas, and the form of that was franked as well during the week. He beat Keita Bourbon and Chapeau du Soleil. The two of those were 1-2 in a beginner's chase at Goran during the week as well. So look, I don't know will he show up or not. We'll have to wait for the declarations, but I think he's around 40-1 now for that 2-mile handicap chase, 2-mile 1 handicap chase. But whether he shows up or not and what kind of effect it'll have, but I'd say if Gordon declares him, he might be a bit of an each way shout.
Yeah, I'll give Vinny, I'll give This Is the Way, if that's right. Yvonne Latta trains this horse. She won, as I say, she won at Down Royal. Wasn't the strongest race now, and I was talking to Andrew Latta afterwards. She won a mare's handicap hurdle, beat the favourite very, very easily under Keane Quirk, who was riding really well, and she was entered already. I wasn't even aware the entries were in for the handicaps. Come back to last Tuesday for Dublin Race Festival, but they were. This Is the Way, hacked up, really travelled well. And she's hopefully going to run under a penalty in that race that now honours Maureen Mullins as well as Paddy. And I see Dicer Dinos is actually the top weight in it, which will be interesting as well if that were to happen. But yeah, I feel I think there's a bit of 20-1 around that horse. This Is the Way under a penalty. She could be well handicapped. Great
stuff. Look, it's a great weekend's racing to look forward to anyway. I'm really looking forward to it, though I'm in Spain, so I'm not sure if I get to see a whole lot of it. I'll be just watching replays, I'd imagine. Anyway, have a great week, and if you are having a bet on the Dublin Racing Festival or anything else, do gamble responsibly. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so you can see all our latest videos. Emma, you'll have a video out this week, will you? A preview of the weekend stuff?
Yeah, we'll do a preview on the Friday, so we'll go through the action in a bit more detail. We'll have declarations at that stage. So yeah, looking forward to it. I'll be up there on Saturday as well, so have to go see Galopin Des Champs again.
Fantastic. Well, look, everyone have a great weekend, and we'll be back again next week on Monday on the bank holiday, and we'll review all of what happened at the Dublin Racing Festival. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.